Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. In this week's video, we're going to talk about a number of items surrounding Canada's productivity, immigration levels, how this all affects housing, and what we can look forward to, not just through this year, but over the next couple years when it comes to real estate across the country and specifically in Vancouver. Real quick before we get started, if this is your first time to the channel, my name is Hassan. I'm a real estate agent in the Vancouver area, and I make educational real estate content to help you on your real estate journey. When I'm not making videos like this, I'm helping people just like you buy and sell real estate across the Lower Mainland. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, if you wanted to chat with me one-on-one, you can book me for a free call in the Calendly link below and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss a future video. All right, so I'm gonna hop right into this video. I have a lot to talk about, but I'm gonna structure it in the sense that we are gonna get to the housing piece and how all of this actually affects real estate values, not just in Vancouver, but across Canada. We'll start with the inflation. I won't talk too much about it, but it actually went up in the last reporting, which was unexpected by most analysts. Most people were expecting it to continue on the downward trend, and that in July, with certainty, we would have another rate cut. Now the way the market is looking at that is less than a 50% chance that we will see another cut in July. So that's something to watch for, something I'll cover in a future video. But I do want to talk about the governor of Bank of Canada, Tiff Macklem, and him coming out recently. I believe he was doing a speech in Winnipeg, and he was talking about Canada's productivity crisis. And basically what that means is our output per worker is constantly trending in a downward direction. We're becoming less and less productive as a nation, and how this is putting a strain on all parts of the economy. Now, this is tied to immigration a little bit, because actually largely because when you bring people into the country, you're you're artificially boosting the economy because you're adding more people to spend. But what you're doing at that same time is you're creating a high level of competition for jobs. And what that ultimately does is it keeps wages, it stagnates wages, right? You have a lot more people coming into the country. Everyone is looking for jobs. Employers don't have to pay their employees so much. And ultimately what happens over a long period of time is wages never keep up with asset values. And like we talk about on our channel, with real estate values, right? So people's wages are not getting to the point where they can get into housing. And that's kind of like the long-term general picture. But when we look at, productivity, and specifically what Tiff is talking about is, where our population is in terms of an age set and where the expected age is supposed to go. We all know the baby boomers make up the largest chunk of the population. New data came out, said that our population over the age of 85 is set to triple over the next 50 years. So we have this aging workforce, right? And so as you get older, generally speaking, productivity goes down. But of course, we're going to need a number of resources to be able to care for this aging population. And so when we look at it from an immigration perspective, I've said this before, Canada typically is talking out of both sides of their mouth because, they need to bring in the workers, because again, we're not having the babies here in order to be able to build a workforce for the future. Our way of building the workforce for the future is to open up the gates and bring people into the country. Now, how this gets affected by housing, to tie this in a little bit to, housing, is that when you have a stronger birth rate, so if we look at generations before us, and they typically had larger families, a higher birth rate, for the first 18 years of a child's life, they're staying under the roof of the family, right? They're with the family, they're with the parents, and then some will branch out into their own properties and that sort of thing after the age of 18, typically. In some cultures, that doesn't even happen at that point. People are staying at home in their 20s and moving up even into their 30s. Now, when the dynamic changes in terms of the population growth now coming significantly from immigration versus within our own borders, and in fact, having babies that are ultimately going to be the new workforce, these folks need housing right away. And so whether they're coming here and they're going to stay here for a long period of time or not. I mean, they need a roof over their head immediately. And so when we open up the gates, because we need these workers, we need employees to be able to fuel this economy, but we don't have the housing that's readily available for them, that becomes a significant problem. And again, when you have the people coming within your own borders and you're giving birth to them, so to speak, you have that runway. So we get overloaded on the real estate side of the equation. And so Tiff was kind of coming out and just saying that this is going to be a significant strain on our resources if we can't figure out a way to actually boost our productivity. And it's kind of a sad reality that we're less productive than we've ever been, and yet our population just grows at alarming rates. And so one of the talks that I've had with quite a few people over the last little bit is talking about the housing supply issue, of course, and specifically condo supply. There's a lot of people out there that are saying, condos are going to crash. Everyone's going to flood the market with inventory. And we have seen inventory, new listings, pick up throughout the year. Now, as I'm recording this, there are still a few days left in the month of June. But from what I'm seeing, it's looking like new listings are very likely to level out, maybe even be down month over month. And that's typical of what would happen from May to June, but a lot of people were thinking things would be different this year, that we would continue to see this influx, a large influx of these new listings hit the market. I'm not suggesting that new listings are now going to fall off, but I do think that the whole conversation surrounding short-term or mid-term inventory, it's going to be a bit of a longer conversation. When people are thinking that people are placing on the homes on the market because they have to. They're feeling the strain from the interest rates. There's some recent data that came out, a survey that came out, found that 11% of sellers are actually, placing homes on the market because of those cost of living sort of issues. Most people are actually downsizing. And this is a trend that I'm noticing real estate wise that's been happening over the last 6 months to a year, a larger set of downsizers right across the Lower Mainland. It ties right into what I was speaking about earlier with the aging population. I can give a specific example. I had a 2-bedroom condo listing here in New West. And, in the past, that 2-bedroom condo listing, generally speaking, most of my buyers coming in would have been people living in 1-bedrooms, whether they were single, whether they were a young couple, whether they had a young child. I would see 70-80% of the buyers would be that segment looking to upsize, to upgrade their living space. And what happened with this 2-bedroom condo listing, ultimately we sold to a downsizer, and I can say over 50% of the groups coming in were actually people selling their detached homes to move into smaller space. And it gives you an idea, like the state of our reality, where upgrading the livelihood, it's just not a thing for so many people now, where in the past, that's what you did. You were earning more money. Real estate prices were not running right away from you. You were able to upgrade and upsize into these larger properties. More people were able to do that. I'm not saying that's not happening at all, but less people are doing that. And in fact, what we're seeing is the opposite. We're seeing now the downsizers, they're moving off of their detached homes. They are struggling to do the downsizing decision. In chatting with these groups coming through my listings, every single one of them is talking about how they're going to have to get rid of all their furniture and change so many aspects of the way that they live. But now the downsizers are moving into that condo space, and I think what happens as we move through time, if we look 5, 10, 15 years, is the 2-bedroom condo becomes the new townhome, and the townhome becomes the new duplex, so to speak, where everything shifts down. The single family home is going to be out of reach for much. They're going to be the duplex, right? And the duplex becomes the townhome. Townhome becomes the 2-bedroom condo, and so on and so forth. So people get used to moving into these smaller spaces, and at the same time, the average household should actually increase because of this as well, because we're seeing a lot of people, even though they're not giving birth and having as many children, more people are coming back together to live under the same roof, or just more people are living under the same roof for cost purposes, just in general. So there's all of these moving pieces to tie it back to, okay, is this condo market going to crash? Are we going to have, all this influx supply? In a 12-month period, Canada increases its population by 1 million people, right? And so let's talk about, the state of home building, and do we have enough of what's going on that's actually going to help house the amount of people coming into the country? Canada sets a lofty target of about 500,000 homes per year, where last year, right across the six metropolitan areas across Canada, we built less than 200,000, right? If we look at 1 million people coming into the country, again, some may be short term, many are longer term. We have 1 million people coming into the country. You're building 200,000 homes a year. What I'm seeing in the numbers is we're actually expecting that number to go down next year, because the reality is that as much as the nation, federal government, they'll launch these housing accelerator funds and they'll do their cross-country tour talking about all the housing that they're bringing to the market. The developer holds the shovel, right? The developer holds the shovel, and what we're seeing now, and not just now, over the last years, we're seeing projects being delayed, not even making it to pre-sale state. Oftentimes even in the rezoning process, the developers are suggesting, okay, we're going to wait. We're going to take longer to be able to put this product to market. There was 4 projects in downtown Vancouver, about 1,000 units that are requesting an extension from the city in terms of when they have to build out these projects. So the developer holds the key, and they're not going to build into a market that's not going to be able to absorb the product that they're bringing to the market. So, 1 million people over a 12-month period. You're building 200,000 homes and likely less than that per year moving forward. Average household size, last time I checked, was under 3. So you can do the simple math. We're not building enough just to house our, year over year population growth. It's not happening. And the reality is, whether people are staying here for a long time or not, everyone needs a roof over their heads, and quite often that roof over their heads is a condo, whether that's held by an investor or whether they're purchasing it themselves when they get over here and they have their permanent residency in place. So over the long haul, we're still undersupplied of condos, of any stratified property. Definitely of detached homes. We're undersupplied, and we're going to see a lot more of this downsizing shift as that population ages and we find more people are downsizing, or there are more estate sales when people pass away and they have their detached home. They have maybe 2 or 3 kids, for example. That home is going on the market as an estate sale, and now the money's coming to the kids. They're putting it into condos. The downsizer obviously is moving from the detached home. And the other interesting thing about the downsizer that I'm noticing in this market, many of them are skipping the townhome. You would think that people would downsize from the detached home into a townhome, but townhomes have too many stairs for elderly folks. They don't want to deal with 3 sets of stairs very often, right? So the condo is actually a smoother downsizing type of a property, in the sense that you can get a ground floor unit, of course, but also if you hop in the elevator, you're on a lower floor. You don't have to worry about those stairs as much, outside of an emergency situation. So that downsizing that's happening, it's happening from detached homes and it's happening into the condo, which is quite different. So, long-term housing supply-wise, not building enough. Developer holds the key to what we are building. And they spend a lot more money on R&D than any one of us. They know which way the market's going. They know what the market can absorb when it comes to supply. So we're not building enough. We're going to have this downsizing shift. We're having a lot more families as well, moving out of one home and into 2. When families, unfortunately, they split up, or things like that happen, which is actually happening at more of an alarming rate. They are often selling one property, a townhome, and moving into 2. And these are all things that are not really encompassed when we talk about that housing supply scenario. So productivity is at a crisis level here in Canada. aging population. We're going to need more resources for that. We've now opened up the borders for caregivers to get their principal residency, their PRs, sorry, immediately upon entering Canada. So we're going to see a lot more of these programs. When you're not giving birth to the next set of workers, you got to look at construction and trades and all of these types of jobs that the youth generally are not hopping into these jobs anymore as is. And so we're needing to bring over people in their 20s and 30s that can actually take on these jobs. I would suggest today here in BC, it's not a big deal because, again, developers scaling back. They're realizing that there is a lot of condo inventory in the market right now, scaling back as things shift, as interest rates come down. Over the longer term, over the next year or two, we're going to see that shift as well. We're going to see more pre-sales, and we're very likely going to see another cycle upwards. So there you have it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this week's video. If you did, hit the like button, because what that does is it takes the video and it sends it out to more people so they can also learn from it. And if you enjoy weekly real estate content, subscribe to this channel so you don't miss next week's video. And lastly, again, if you're in the Vancouver area or the Fraser Valley, you want to chat with me about your real estate situation one-on-one, you can book me for a free call in the Calendly link, or just send me a text, give me a call, shoot me an email, whatever is best for you. I'd be happy to chat with you. But I want to thank you for watching this week's video, and I look forward to seeing you next week.